Okay, boys and girls, today we're talking about setting. So you should have kind of a larger packet of pages. We're going to go over the first 3 pages together, and then the rest are going to be for you to complete on your own, and make sure that you upload them so that your teacher can check them. So talking about setting an event, we know that setting is primarily where the story takes place. So, if you're talking about what you did for the weekend, when you're talking about going somewhere, that's your setting. Whether you stayed at home and you're describing your home, that's your setting. So wherever the character is, and there can be more than one setting in a story, especially if you're reading a chapter book. Maybe a lot of times their setting is their home and school, or maybe it's a book about a football player. So a lot of times maybe their setting is the football field, or like the gym, wherever they are. So the setting is just where that story takes place. And you're going to find the setting by listening to those description words that the author is using. So those words that describe what the area looks like, what's around it, or maybe pictures, depending on what kind of book you're reading. If you're reading a graphic novel, you're going to know the setting based on the pictures. We also have the events that we're talking about a little bit today. And events make up the plot. Remember, we did the plot mountain, where the beginning, the rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. All of those things make up the plot, all of those events. So those are important things that are happening that make the story exciting. So here, the first thing we want to look at is the picture. And we're going to answer some questions based on what the picture shows. So the first thing is, what event is happening? Well, if I'm looking at the picture, come on, we're going to say that there are 2 boys fishing. Okay? We know that because we see what looks like a fishing rod and fish, right? Where does the event take place? Now, if I'm looking at it specifically, I know it has to be some type of body of water. Now, I know what a pond and a lake and a river and a stream look like, and an ocean. And I don't really think they're at the ocean, because last time I checked, there weren't lots of trees around an ocean. I'm going to say probably not a pond, because ponds are kind of smaller, and it looks like this land's further away. So I'm going to say a lake or a river. I'm not quite sure. It could be a river, it could be a lake. The next question says, when does the event take place? Now, sometimes with these types of questions, you have to infer. I didn't read anything, so I'm not quite sure when it's taking place. I'm going to guess it's during the day. So I'm going to write daytime, because I know that they're probably not fishing at night. I don't see any lights. And then based on their clothing and the fact that they don't have any shoes on, that they're wearing kind of straw hats to shade themselves, I'm going to guess probably summer. Now, I do know that you can fish all season round depending on where you live, but I'm just going to make my best guess and say it's probably summertime. What details help you know the setting and event? Well, the fish and the body of water. So I'm going to say fishing rod, water, and their clothing. Right? And then describe the setting and what is happening. I'm not going to write all that down, because we can talk about that. So describing the setting, I'm going to say these 2 boys are outside fishing at a lake or river during the day, most likely in the summer. If I want to be more specific, I'm going to probably say it's happening in the past, like years and years ago. Considering I don't know many people who wear straw hats nowadays. There are some people, but these kind of look a little bit more fringed than our other ones. Our straw hats now look a little bit more finished off. Same with their fishing rod. If you look up here, it looks kind of like it's tied in a bow. And most of the time, our fishing rods have like reels, and you can turn it in. And the same with like their overalls and those types of things. I don't know, when I've passed lakes and rivers, I don't see many people dressed like that without some type of shoe on So I noticed that they don't have like a tackle box or a net or anything either. So I'm going to say it's probably happening in the past. So there's our little review. Now we're going to move on to the next page. And here we're talking about Marina's garden, okay? And you're going to read this, then we're going to read the second section. We're going to talk about what the bottom chart says to describe where does the story take place and when does it take place. But it wants you to just read the beginning of the story, okay? So we're going to read the beginning of the story, answer that question, and you're going to read the rest of it. So hang tight with me. Look at that first paragraph. It said, Marina looked out of her apartment window in the foggy morning and sighed. The city was all around her. Tall, gray buildings blocked her view, and the air was filled with the sounds of speeding cars and honking horns. There wasn't a speck of green to be found at the beginning, okay? So let's see. It asks, where does the story take place and when does it take place? So, where does it take place? I'm going to say the city, right? It's telling me that. Definitely an apartment window, an apartment. I don't need to really underline window. So an apartment in the city, it's definitely in the morning time because she says a foggy morning. We know it's the city because there are tall gray buildings, sounds of speeding cars and honking horns. Wasn't a speck of green to be found. So we definitely know that she lives in a city. And that she's talking about it's happening when this is taking place is in the morning time. Okay? Now, what I would like you to do, see how we saw those descriptive words? What I want you to do is read this. So we have 4 paragraphs, plus flip the page. You also should read all of this, okay? So what I'm going to have you do, pause your video, read all those paragraphs all the way to number 14, and then we are going to talk about the question here at the bottom where it asks, Marina gets her wish for a city garden when blank. So, pause the video, read, and come back and we'll discuss. Go ahead. Okay, now you should have unpaused, you should have read everything that you needed to read, and you should be at the question down here where it says, Marina gets her wish for a city garden when? Now, we're going to practice answering the question. When she visits her grandmother once in a while? Remember, we're talking about a city garden. Is she getting a garden in the city when she visits her grandma? No, because her grandma doesn't live in the city. When her father comes home from the grocery store. I don't know about that one. When she joins a community garden in the summer. Sounds pretty plausible from what I read. Or when she goes to thank the farmer's market vendor in the fall. I don't think that she gets a city garden when that happens. So we have these 2. Your best answer should be C. She joins the community garden in the summer. Her father comes home and tells her about it, but that doesn't get her the actual garden. Up here, if I'm looking back at the events in the story to help me, it says that here, there is a garden starting in the neighborhood. Here is the registration form. We pay a small fee and get a plot, and we can grow whatever we want. That's how she gets a small garden. So she worked hard all summer together. She and her parents grew many beautiful plants. That's how she gets her wish for a city garden, when she joins a community garden in the summer. Okay. You will now need to do the following pages in this packet and upload those that have questions on them for your teacher to check. And that is all.